Howdy folks, and welcome back to my Star Wars The Old Republic tips and tricks section, and today we're talking about the Knights of the Eternal Throne. But before I get into that, I do want to give out some big shoutouts. The first shoutout is to SWTOR Central. SWTOR Central is another YouTuber out there making YouTube videos about Star Wars The Old Republic, and they're great. A lot of the reasons that I've been trying to up my game is by looking at other YouTubers like SWTOR Central and trying to make my videos up to their standards. So guys, if you haven't checked out that channel, click on that link, check him out, and give him some props, because we're all out here trying to support you guys as you game. Also, I have two really big shoutouts to Penny and Xenoff from Morons and Mayhem. Morons and Mayhem is one of the premier raiding guilds on the Harbinger server, and they were my first two guests ever. And I got the chance to interview them last week, and we talked about everything in the game, about how to get started, about being a part of a guild, about how to make a really great guild, about the Dark vs. Light event, and of course, about Knights of the Eternal Throne. So if you guys want to check that out and check out some of their crazy good insights, click on this link and go ahead and check out my video for my very first interview that I've ever done on my channel, and no matter what, they'll always be my first. Last up, I do want to throw out one other thing at you guys, which is that if you're looking to be a part of Star Wars The Old Republic, but you haven't felt like you could do the solo experience like you see in some of these videos, don't worry about it. Why don't you go ahead and check out Morons and Mayhem. We are looking for new members, and that's the guild that both myself, Penny, and Xenoff are all a part of, and you can click on the link at the end or in the body, and you can go ahead and check out and put in an application. We'd love to see you. Anyway guys, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this. Let's go ahead and take a look at this first shot here, and this is what was released to us by the dev team from Star Wars The Old Republic about Knights of the Eternal Throne, and they haven't given out a lot of details yet, so I am taking this time to go ahead and look at this picture bit by bit and really try to analyze and kind of figure out what might be going on here, because I feel that if this is the very first thing that they've ever released, then this is trying to set the tone of what Knights of the Eternal Throne should be about. I've separated this into four major things to talk about today. We've got Figure 1, which is the figure in black. We've got Figure 2, which is the figure in white. We've got this strange object in the back, which might be a couple different things. We'll talk about that in a bit. And then down here in the lower right-hand corner, it's actually not a pile of rubber. It's not actually a pile of rubble. It's actually a corpse. So we're going to take a look at each one of these things individually and start taking some guesses. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first figure, which I think of as the mysterious figure only because their back is to us, so we can't actually see what's going on in their face. We can't see if it's a character we recognize. And from behind, the first thing I want to mention is that this is entirely new armor. I haven't seen anything like this in the game. We have seen agent-style trench coats before, but if you look really closely, there could be a hood on the back of this character's head that has kind of a trailing tail that goes down the back and towards the character's right-hand side. It looks like the sleeves have been torn off, and now there's something golden that's been exposed underneath. The hands are blue. I can't tell if that's just from the lighting effect of whatever power they have going on, or if that's actually the skin color of this character, and that we're seeing that. Also, take a look at the left hand. There's only 3 fingers there. I don't know if that actually means anything, or if that's just an artist rendering that's a problem, and we just don't see the 4th finger in this shot. I don't know, but I did want to draw some attention to it because it's in this artwork. Also, if you take a look, it looks like this armor has several different layers to it. There's the outer black coat layer to it. There's an inner armor layer, which kind of looks like plates and scale mail kind of armor. Then there's the black pants, and if you look down at the bottom, there's these kind of golden brownish boots. Now here's the thing about this character. Since we can't see their face, all we can really do is guess that this is either a new character or an old character we've seen before. A first guess might be Valen, only because contextually speaking, with a character dressed all in black facing against another character all in white, one of which we think we might recognize from the front as Senya, then we might suppose that this is Valen, and this is the aforementioned second encounter between these two characters. The first encounter obviously being in Chapter 8, and now these two might be squaring off again. However, I'm not actually leaning that way, only because Star Wars has been really, really specific about keeping people like Arkin and Valen in the exact same outfit, even over the 5-year time gap. So while the Outlander character was frozen in carbonite, even when they pop out, Arkin and Valen look like they haven't changed a bit, even if some of the other side characters and companions have. So right now I'm leaning towards this is a new character in a new set of armor that we haven't seen yet, and the glowing hands I think signify a new type of power we may not also have explored. a big part of Knights of the Fallen Empire has been trying to blur the lines between what we currently know as the light side and the dark side. And this character might be experiencing something somewhere in the middle. I haven't actually seen that glowing hand effect. Usually you see lightning coming out of, the hands of a Sith, or you might see telekinesis being used by a Jedi, but this actually looks like a blue glow centered around the hands like they're about to shoot, laser beams out of there or something. I'm not exactly sure. I'd love to hear what you guys think about it, but right now I'm leaning towards a new character with some kind of new ability we may not have actually seen yet. Taking a look at the character in white, I really do feel this is Senya. That's almost verbatim the armor that she's currently wearing in Knights of the Fallen Empire. The difference is that there's some added brown elements to it that we didn't see before. If any of you guys were familiar with the Zakulian Knight Captain armor set that was released a little while ago, it kind of had some of these elements where it's that white Zakulian plate mail plus some brown cloth elements attached to it. Now the only thing that I would find that maybe this isn't Senya, and why I have a question mark there, is because of that saber staff. That's my number one bullet point. That saber staff is not something Senya currently uses. Senya uses a single-bladed lightsaber with a blue saber crystal. This character here is obviously using a saber staff. Now, I'm going to draw a few conclusions here that may be wrong or may be right, but from what we've just seen at the end of the Gemini Deception with the mass murder of quite a few of the Zakulian Knights, Force-using, guardsmen, this might be Senya turning a corner, and a status may change in the last chapter, and see her take up a whole new role within the context of the Eternal Throne. But what we can definitely see here in this photo is that this character is definitely wearing all white, the other character is wearing all black. We're just getting out of an event called the Dark versus Light event. I'm not sure if these things are all coincidence. I just think that it's very visually striking and something to point out. Again, if you guys have your own opinions, I'd love to see them in the comments below. Also, the last thing I'll say about this particular character and why I do think it's Senya is because I feel that from this picture we do get a very feminine body type. From the way the head ratio works with the head, the shoulders, and the hips, I do feel like this is a female character, whereas the first character, it's really hard to tell gender. The coat especially destroys all the body lines. But here, just because of also the placement of the brown, it does accentuate the chest area, which looks very feminine. And then you also have what looks almost like a brown skirt attachment to what this armor was. So I am feeling that this is probably Senya, or if not Senya, then a new female knight that we haven't seen yet. Not really sure. We're going to have to see what happens at the end of Knights of the Fallen Empire to really draw some better conclusions, and that doesn't come out till August 2nd. But for right now, I am just going to kind of go off on a limb here and make the assumption that that's probably Senya. And if that is so, then that means she is stepping forefront and center deeper into the story than she has previously. So far, she's been kind of a plot device as a way to explain where Arkin and Valen come from, and really hasn't been utilized to her full potential. But what we do know is she can stand toe-to-toe with her daughter Valen. I think that would lend a little bit of credence that the other person could be Valen in a new outfit. Then this would be the bookend confrontation between what we saw in Chapter 8. In the background of the photo, we do see something very large, very metal, and very metallic. And I have the word mysterious ship with a question mark there because I'm not 100% sure that that is, in fact, a ship. From the details of it and looking at pictures of the gravestone and the normal configurations for the Imperial fleet ships and the Republic fleet ships, I don't think it's any of the three of those. And as far as the Eternal fleet, because of the way the Gemini Deception just ended, I also don't think this is one of the Eternal fleet ships either. So that begs the question, what is it we're seeing behind these two characters? One wearing dark, one wearing light, and then this massive structure in the background. To have the most emotional impact, I would actually like to think that this is something we may have already seen, and that this is giving us a tip on where the plot is going. Now, I may be going way off on a limb here, but looking at some of the old shots of the Eternal Throne, I actually think that could be a chunk of the Eternal Throne back behind these two characters. I feel like that would give the most story impact, seeing something that was so big and so iconic in the first few chapters now being destroyed and part of the rubble that you see behind these two characters, and would also symbolize the great turmoil of what this war would look like. I may be way off. Right now it's just a big chunk of metal. There's no way to tell. But of all the guesses I have, this would be the one that I would like the most. just because I feel like that would actually give some real weight and real gravity to what this conflict is all about. My second best guess is that it might be pieces of Arkan's flagship. If you look at the front end of the flagship and the back end, there's a lot of very large metallic pieces that could potentially fit that same structure of what we're seeing there on the ground. It's got a lot of those same very angular pieces to it. And because of the way the Gemini Deception ended, that might be all he's got left. And it might make for a really great launching point for the Eternal Throne if now Arkan's only real resource after the Eternal Fleet has been taken from him is the flagship, and if that goes down in flames, that could explain what we're seeing in the background of these two characters. I also like the idea too, just in the main master shot photo, that if this is the ship or that is the Eternal Throne in the background, it starts bringing this confrontation from that really big, massive level down to a much more personal level. And now for the corpse. Okay, first off, guys, this is the one I'm making the biggest leaps on, and I'm going to try not to touch too much into where I think the story might go and just try to analyze what we see here in the photo. But what I'm seeing here, especially when it's blown up a little bit, is that this is definitely an armored body, and it looks more like a corpse than it looks like a droid. The Skytrooper droids are notorious for having jetpacks on their back and going down into pieces of, metallic rubble when they're destroyed. This doesn't look like that. This looks like a dead body. One of the things that I think is really interesting is that it looks like Scorpio didn't just take over the Eternal Fleet over at the end of the Gemini Deception. It looks like she took over all the Skytroopers as well. If that is the case, that means the military effort that is being put forth by Zakuul to maintain its empire would have to now rely on its citizenry. And that means, all of a sudden, Zakuul gets stormtroopers. I feel like this might actually be a Zakuulian stormtrooper, or at least what will eventually become to be known as one. Also, what's really interesting, if you look at where the character's left arm should be extended out to, you can actually see what looks like a bladed weapon on the ground. There's a round circular handle, a round cross hilt, and then what looks like a very big piece of metal, almost like a machete. It's really curious. Skytroopers have used blasters almost exclusively, and to see a large metallic handheld weapon like a vibroblade being next to the body of a downed soldier in this particular confrontation scene, I don't know. That leaves a lot of question marks there, guys. I don't know really what that means. I would love to hear what you guys think, but I did think it was worth pointing out because it's just so unusual. And for this title shot, this being the one thing that BioWare has released to us, I just think that is really super interesting to have in a big promotional picture like this. So that's about all the speculation I have for you guys today. Again, we were just doing the picture analysis right now. I'm going to do a deeper story analysis on my next video where we'll take a look at where Knights of the Fallen Empire, where it went with its story arc, and then where we think Eternal Throne might go. But if you want a little bit of that ahead of time, check out my interview with Penny and Xenoff from Morons and Mayhem. I'm going to have a link right here in the video so you can just click on it and go right to it. Some great ideas came out there, guys. We speculated a bit on where the story might go, and then also we all pitched in on what we would love to see in the next expansion. And one of my favorite things that came up from there was from Xenoff. He actually said he would love the option to romance Valen if it meant you had to kill your entire alliance to do it. I thought that was hardcore as hell. And if you want to hear more stuff like that, check out this video. Click on the link, and until then, guys, I'll see you next time.